Brett, hit us with some examples. What might an age play scene look like? We already kind of talked about the, Britney Spears "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" aesthetic, but I know there's a lot more to it than that.
Oh gosh, yes, yes. This is not a bad place to acknowledge something I left out earlier when you were talking about acronyms and abbreviations and things, is that age players can be switches.
Oh,
And
sure.
earlier when I said that an age player might have multiple states into which they regress, well, an age player might also be other roles. You could easily be both a mommy and a little girl, whether to different people or to the same person. And that's all valid. So when we talk about scenes, someone entering, maybe a mommy right now, but usually they're a little girl or something like that. So age play scenes, this is a common question when people are trying to grasp age play, especially from the BDSM community. They're like, well, how might have I seen this in the dungeon? Or how will I spot this in the dungeon? Or if I see a cute age player in the dungeon, what should I offer? And so, well, I have a number of approaches to this, and you can imbue many basic kink scenes with the atmosphere, ambiance, character that fits a domestic scene or a schoolroom scene. Like, it's not difficult if you have any sort of stage management, artist's vision, to pick the toys that further the headspace and stay away from the toys that would be a distraction or present a snag towards believing in the scene space that this is going on. So, for example, my first BDSM toy ever was a hairbrush, a paddle brush. I got it at the Bath and Body Works in the Arboretum in maybe 1995. And I kept that brush on my belt when I went to parties as sort of a subtle sign that this is the type of spanking, a domestic style spanking, quite likely an over the knee spanking. But I'm just talking about the physicality and the appearance right now. An age play scene is going to be negotiated like any other, and it's going to be negotiated with both partners in their adult headspace. And if you're going to give a flogging to an age player who likes a flogging, they probably have their own pink flogger that they would like you to use, and if you're going to get one from an age player, prepare for some silly things to happen. They might shoot you with a bubble gun or something like that. So
if there's anything we can count on our kinksters for, it's to be very specific. Right, like to know exactly what paddle they want or whatever else.
Yeah, exactly. And also, we were talking about triggers a little while ago. This is germane here. You can be an age player who doesn't want an over-the-knee spanking, or an age player who is not into paddles, or not into belts, or whatever. And this is all completely valid. It's negotiated like anything else. That said, I also mentioned earlier setting up a wax play station for age players because it's kind of messy and it's rewarding. It's not very scary. When you see your friend do it, you want to do it. So that works very well. Also, I mentioned setting up a medical table and putting out some, Band-Aids and lollipops and a stethoscope and a white coat. And age players can get pretty far with that. So I do some more complicated scenes, like I do a lot of medical play. And I mentioned props. Here's one that might quasi-trigger some of your audience. Anyone recognize this?
Let's see. For the podcast audience, you're holding up...
The American Girl, The Care and Keeping of You, the body book for girls. And this is an older edition. And many, many women grew up and received a copy of this book. Mm-hmm. So showing it to them brings an instant transformation across their face. whether they're an age player or not. Like, oh my God, where did you get that? Why do you have that? And, I have it to do this to you, actually. That's why I have it. And, I also have a variety of thermometers. So anyway, reading stories to people, I read this book last together with somebody while we were doing naughty things to one another. And, she read for a while, I read for a while. And another time, I was reading a story at a party in the age play room. Reading to one another, or reading to your little, is a very, very common activity in any kind of relationship. But I decided to use it with this age player I didn't know very well, to play in the age play room, which was a light to no play room under a blanket. So we were cuddling under a blanket. I was reading. Further play was occurring beneath the blanket,
Mm-hmm.
And in a way that was subtle and didn't include anyone else in the room. So if they were, for example, a non-sexual age player, not something we mentioned earlier, but an important distinction, it wouldn't alter their experience. They could still color away happily across the room,
Sure.
without knowing that people were having sex under a blanket, while reading a story. So I'm going to show you another thing I prepared. This one doesn't require you to read through your camera, but this is a stuffed crocodile.
Mm-hmm.
Mirroring right. Stuffed crocodile in a doctor's white jacket. All right. And when I do my medical age play class, the demo at the end involves co-opting some age players from the audience and giving them nurses' hats and telling them they'll be assisting the doctor, which is not me. The doctor is the crocodile, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's somebody else who is brought up purely to voice the crocodile. And I explained to them, no, actually, you don't know what's going on. But when I look at you, please make convincing crocodile noises. Secretly, I'm running the show. I am conducting a conversation with a stuffed crocodile. And based on his instructions, which I alone can interpret, I am instructing the age play nurses to do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, sorry to spoil it, but the body bag I bring out does have a stuffed animal in it. Bound, and we're going to snip it open, and they're going to do an autopsy on the stuffy. And nobody could possibly expect what happens next. I give them a reciprocating saw and have the other age players pull the stuffy tight. And sensitive viewers may want to just turn it down for 30 seconds. And no one expects blood to come up when the saw
from a stuffed animal,
down into the fur, right? No one expects it. So, and then once we finally get it open and start pulling out the organs that I loaded into it earlier before the class, and find that there's a lot of candy hidden within them, it's really kind of a joy to see reveal after reveal, because age players, an important dynamic in playing with them is that you are both the hand that hurts and the hand that comforts at the same time. If a child is in a medical office having a procedure done with just a nurse, they're going to hold the nurse's hand, even if they don't trust the nurse completely.
Sure. Even if there's a shot involved, even if there's an uncomfortable medical procedure. Yeah.
Right. So the hand that causes fear and the hand that gives comfort are in a constant balance in some of the types of age play I do that are more fear oriented, because, this sometimes is a huge turn on, and there's a huge overlap with medical play and age play. So actually my favorite part of this scene is then getting out a candy bowl full of the same candy, new, no blood all over it, and offering it to everybody until they say out loud, "No, I don't want any candy." And then at this point, the big who is sitting next to them is looking at me and looking at them and saying, "How did you do that?" What do you mean you don't want any candy? It's like, well, no, they don't.
Well, there's obviously an incredible amount of childlike imagination seems to be a very appropriate term, and a lot of creativity in all of this. What are some of the other really common toys or clothes or accessories? I mean, accoutrement to help build out that world.
Well, stuffed animals are a standby.
Sure.
Age players and people of all ages tend to be very protective of their stuffed animals. So for that last scene, I make a point. If I have a friend in the class that I know is going to be there who is an age player, I get the permission of their dom to use an exact replica of their most prized stuffed animal as the body that, under autopsy,
Yeah.
just to give them something, a little extra kick. So anyway, okay, so your question was about trappings.
Sure.
Okay, so clothing, accoutrement, things like that. So there's actually a huge business that has grown up to supply the age play community over the years. It's an industry now. And maybe 12 years ago when I was getting started, you would essentially find people's home businesses, home seamstress businesses, tailors and so forth, putting up a crappy 1990s, early 2000s website and, making stuff to order and then pretty reliably going out of business within a couple years because it's just a labor of love. And
now it's like half of Etsy.
Yes. But even them, I mean, think about the experience of somebody making clothing for age players. I mean, we do this because it makes them so happy. And it must be very rewarding to create a custom garment that somebody's visualized for a long time. But right now, there must be a dozen diaper companies alone with several different prints and styles and thicknesses and so forth to serve the age play community. And they're really good products. And on Amazon, some of them can be delivered same day. And anyway, also these manufacturers tend to also offer onesies, which go with diapers in mass proliferation, but also things like shortalls and denim skirts, which are somehow, related with childhood. I mean, they are to me. I like them, but I don't really know why. I suppose older women just don't like them, but I don't know.
There's a childlike aesthetic there. I get that.
There's also footed pajamas. That's really common. Sometimes if you look for a while, you can find good ones of the right weight for your climate with the drop seat. I consider it an essential feature. Weighted blankets have gotten popular. And that is age player crack. They love them. My little girl has two, one at her place and one at mine. And it just dovetails so well with my role to kind of safeguard her sleep and general health and things like that. But also, if you've been going to Hot Topic for the last several years, you're going to see the proliferation of age play stuff there. If you haven't, you wouldn't have. But, Melanie Martinez is very much in the age play aesthetic. So this particular artist is, sings dirty age play lyrics and has an audience. And her stuff is all at Hot Topic, and it's little bottles and pacifiers and baby charms on a necklace for whoever to buy. So it's really not hard to cobble together a great age play outfit from Target and Hot Topic and a couple online vendors that can maybe get you that Animal Crossing bottle you really need. Or, the pacifier with a skull and crossbones on it, so everybody knows you're, a bad goth bitch or whatever. So this is actually so much easier than it used to be. You don't have to order this stuff from Germany anymore, or from China, or from a badly produced catalog. And when
the internet's making these things more, do you think the internet is making these things more available, or is the culture more accommodating now?
Well, I want to back up to one more example to say things. These things don't necessarily need to be specialist age play garments.
Right.
One of the favorite things I've ever bought for a partner was a sort of Little House on the Prairie pioneer nightgown. You know, it's the most modest thing in the world, but it's in pink gingham and it's adorable. And I privately love the fact that I got it on Etsy from a good Christian mom who just makes these things, you know, and I'm thrilled to subvert it uh, and send other people their way. So getting things made by professionals can be done either above board or below board. I mean, you don't need to tell them what
Sure.
it's for. And you might just need very common things that are sized up. Not specifically age play gear, but you can certainly go to and find a number of furniture purveyors too. Folks who will make you a high chair if that's your thing, or a crib or whatever out of variety materials. So I have done this. I've had some furniture custom made through Etsy and local folks, and had some old furniture I got that was antique furniture suitable for my purpose, just restored. So creativity still comes into it, but jumpers, overalls, shortalls, onesies, all that stuff can facilitate the headspace. But I wouldn't just, it's something you want your partner to choose for themselves, I think, in most cases, because people are very picky about their aesthetic. And out of 100 onesies, I might expect my partner to like none of them. And that's the right answer.
Sure. Well, I'm going to let Sarah return us to the calls here in just a moment. But I wanted to return to something you said about non-sexual age play. And I wanted to kind of just get a moment from you to clarify a little bit about how sexuality plays into all of this, if it's inherently necessary or how that fits together.
Okay, well, it is not, it may be inherently necessary to you. You know,
Sure.
and in which case, you know, select your partners carefully, because they're basically going to need to be into that. And if it's a hard no up front, that's fine. If you are interested in sexual age play, it's not unlikely that you might feel some shame about that. Especially if you're not part of an age play community, if the concept is new to you, if these are feelings that you haven't discussed with anyone before, they might be just safely encapsulated in shame. And you might now be confronting unpacking that, and being radically honest about what you like with your partner so that you stand a chance of getting it. So anyway, I just want to acknowledge that jettisoning your shame could be a part of it.
Sure.
So back to your question. I'm so sorry. What was it?
Yeah, well, no, I don't have a specific question other than to, I guess, just highlight that this is maybe a headspace, maybe a dynamic, maybe it's an outfit, maybe it's a role play. Like there are different kind of edges that we can come to this thing too. And yeah, this is secular sexuality. A lot of those edges are going to involve sex. But that's not necessarily a like integral to what we're discussing here. That this is perhaps a piece of yourself that you might want to explore, or a piece of yourself that, or maybe a language with which to express yourself that doesn't necessarily need to lead to sex or sexuality in any sort of distinct way.
No, not at all. Not at all. Whether you, oh, I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, sorry. I was just, or even like romance or anything like that. It can be just like a friendly thing.
Quite right. I could be a caregiver for a little who is a lesbian, and we will never experience sexual attraction with one another, but we can still have fulfilling experiences, and meet some emotional needs for one another, be really present for one another. There's a lot of value in that. And, you know, when somebody feels really seen and appreciated and authenticated, let's say, you know, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when they say friendships are important, it really means friends who see you as your authentic self. So non-sexual age play is extremely important. That age player needs to be seen and validated as an age player. So they're not going to have any trouble finding partners who are interested in non-sexual age play, and they may or may not also have a separate sexual relationship with that person. That said, it's just a practical consideration that if there's one age play group in town and you're going to have parties, then you need to create some sort of distinction in spaces at the party so that people can self-select into the vibe they prefer at that time and maybe go across the Great Divide and come back later in the evening. So it's useful to segregate your spaces and have maybe the upstairs be the kinkier stuff. And yeah, you might hear screams come down, but you can play the music loud and you can ask people to use gags and stuff. And downstairs can be the more chill area where people are going to color, socialize, get their snacks, and watch cartoons, play video games, stuff like that are all legit age play activities, especially done together in the types of clothing that you prefer. That's so anyway, when you can't separate spaces, you can still stagger times. You can say from 8 to 10, this space is going to be this, and from 10, these spaces will convert to this. Manage yourselves accordingly. You're adults. So anyhow, when you don't have a big enough community to have two separate groups, you end up doing stuff like that, and it can work out reasonably well. But if your community is large enough to support a sexual and a non-sexual age play group, you might have them. And common stresses over this are things like questions like, well, can you do age play as a sexual age player with an age player who is a non-sexual age player? I mean, this question comes very early in discussions of this. And my answer is, well, maybe. I mean, let's talk about the differences between experiences. For example, if I am changing someone's diaper, which happens all the time, it's very professional and routine, the person who's getting changed may not be having a sexual experience at all. They may be kind of zoned out in a good spot, comfortable. It's what they showed up for. This is their thing. But the person changing the diaper may very well be having a sexual experience. It doesn't need to alter what they do, but it can certainly alter their feeling and their takeaway without violating the boundaries of their play partner in the moment at all. So anyway, a certain amount of bleed over can occur painlessly if you're willing to, behave, show restraint, be friendly, things like that, and not try to convince anyone to do something they're not prepared to do. That is definitely not the name of the game. And if there's various strategies you could use to help people broaden their view of something. It's entirely possible that you could cooperatively introduce sexuality into non-sexual age play. But, I'm inclined not to try. I think you really need that person to be actively interested in that. And you can bring it up a couple times, but I really think this is one of the benefits of being in a community where you can have different experiences with different people, or dare I say being poly, so that you don't need to burden someone with your needs that don't fit what they can offer. So a lot of playing nice together goes into this, but you can play nice together. It's not difficult. That said, sexual age players are very easily misunderstood in their interests and goals. And also, they still sometimes carry shame, even in their existing relationship. I was so pleased and gratified when someone came up to me and said, "Oh my God, I'm having so much more sex after your class when you came to our city last year, because my partner heard you and basically bought it. Like they'd never bought it from me." But they heard
shame disappears when you hear it from an outside source.
Yeah,
I'll just
yeah.
highlight,
So
it doesn't matter what kind of class you're teaching, whether it's on kink or sexuality or astrophysics. I think it's it's a sign that it went really well if people are having a lot more sex afterwards.
yeah, yeah. I was pleased because I liked them personally. As soon as she walked up to me, I could picture again her partner at the time in the audience, and how he had nodded along when I had mentioned truths of parenting. And like, you can connect with an audience on ageplay if they're parents of bio children in the audience by just throwing out a little conventional parenting wisdom, like, when you have a kid, you don't know what you're going to get. And you can roll that out into the audience and let it sort of sink in, right? Because there's some deep messages in there, that we have a certain amount of flexibility in our personas and capabilities and interests and so forth, but our partner next to us is not going to essentially change for us. We might negotiate things out of the relationship, but we can't negotiate anything out of them, and should not try. So anyway, I think perhaps what clicked for him was my saying, we're not in charge of what makes us feel truly alive.
Sure.
We have to come to terms with it if it's a difficult thing. And if you're somebody with an outlandish fantasy through most people's terms, I sure hope you bring it up with a partner you trust in a space you two can create together that feels safe, and with the understanding that we all have these, and it's nothing to be ashamed of.